MCSG was a Minecraft server founded in 2012 based off of the plugin coded by Chad Dunbar, otherwise known as ChadtheDJ. The server hosted matches of survival games, a battle royale-like game mode based off of the Hunger Games series of movies and books. I was a heavy player on the server from late 2014 almost up until its first shutdown in mid-2016. I have a lot of fond memories from my time on the server and was interested in putting together a video that sort of recalled a bunch of the cultural phenomena that happened on the server during the specific time period when I was active. I wrote, recorded, and began the editing process and got about halfway done before I took a step back and said, I fucking hate this. I don't know if the format was the issue or the script just wasn't any good, but I was not enjoying my time creating this video. What you are about to watch is my second attempt. Created by me, with contributions from former MCSG players, I have put together the first and only MCSG Iceberg, which we are going to be detailing today. I'm sure most of us are acquainted with the Iceberg format by now, but in case you aren't, an iceberg is a collection of information on an individual topic, separated by multiple tiers. Each tier represents a certain level of obscurity, so in this instance, the very top presents information that people who have only ever heard of the game mode can possibly recall, to the very bottom tier, which presents information that people like myself, who are a few feet too deep, can remember. With the explanation out of the way, let's begin. Original Vareide map. This entry refers to the first Minecraft survival games map as it was named by its creator, Vareide. The map is directly based off of the forest in which the first Hunger Games takes place as told in the original Hunger Games book and shown in the movie adaptation. This map is the reason that this iceberg exists today. 2012 YouTuber event. A few days after the release of the original map, an event was organized that would have multiple famous Minecraft YouTubers at the time play on the map. Participants included the likes of CNanners, iHasCupquake, Chimney Swift, Paul Soares Jr., Sly Foxhound, Syndicate, Captain Sparkles, and Antvenom. Antvenom is listed here for two reasons, the first being that he was the winner of the 2012 YouTuber event. The second being that he was at least a small part of why survival games and MCSG took off as they did. MCSG/MCGamer rebrand. About halfway into the lifespan of the server, the staff of MCSG rebranded the server, changing its name to the MCGamer Network. Alongside this, the server's IP was changed and a handful of new game modes were added on top of survival games, which all of the other game modes at the time derived themselves from. It would seem that this was done to try and attract players that weren't interested in survival games to the server. How successful this was, I cannot say. I never touched any of the other game modes. The Hive. The Hive was a Europe-based Minecraft server that served as MCSG's main competitor for most of its life. The Hive version of the game mode was the closest to the original version that any other server at the time had. Despite the community's general hostility towards the server's competitors, not much of it was ever aimed towards the Hive and its community. Huahwi. Huahwi was the most famous player on MCSG and was considered to be the very best PvPer on the server. However, asking almost anybody on the server would expand that range to cover the entire world. He was well known for not just his skill in-game, but for his cool personality and calming voice. Additionally, he was well known for his YouTube montages, well-edited compilation of his best clips set to EDM, or in one instance, a song by Rise Against. Many in-jokes surrounding him spread in the community, including his constant mention of his cold hands, or the theory behind his several YouTube disappearances, which we will talk about in a later entry. Chest tiers. Chests within the MCSG game mode were separated into two tiers. The first tier had basic items such as leather armor, uncooked food or vegetables, and crafting materials such as sticks, feathers, or flint. Tier 2 chests included more useful items such as chain and iron armor, stone swords, cooked food, or iron and diamonds. Texture packs. Texture packs on MCSG were passed around like Halloween candy. Due to the intuitive nature of creating one of these packs, many players mixed and matched textures from other packs or created their own from scratch. The most popular pack on the server was Huahwi's, which he created by combining textures from packs such as Deathscape and R3D Craft. To emphasize how incredibly popular Huahwi and his subsequent pack were, Huahwi never publicly released his pack until after the server shut down. People had to compile it themselves, or get a download link from someone that did. Fishing rod. MCSG popularized the use of the fishing rod in PvP. By hitting your opponent with a fishing rod, it became easier to start a combo with your sword. It was also useful for knocking your opponent away from you. Montages. As previously stated, montages were a large part of MCSG's YouTube community, in which a player would compile their best clips and put them on top of a song of their choice, typically EDM, which now leads us into EDM. EDM was very overused in this community. Many of the same tracks littered the background of any video involving MCSG. Popular titles included Frame of Mind by Tristram and Braken, We Won't Be Alone by Faint, and Hope by Tobu, or really anything by Tobu. In the description, I have linked a playlist of popular songs from the time created by my friend Chris for anyone who may want to hear something nostalgic. 2016 shutdown. As I alluded to previously, MCSG shut down in 2016, presumably due to a lack of players. The server was revived a little while later, but has seemingly closed its doors indefinitely as of 2020. Solrflare. Solrflare was possibly MCSG's second most popular player when compared to Huahwi. A very skilled PvPer, Solrflare is well known to me as being the guy who got a good percentage of the server's players to copy his skin, which was Kaneki Ken from Tokyo Ghoul. People who didn't take his entire skin might have made their eye red and black to resemble the ghoul's eyes from the show instead. He also made some pretty popular texture packs. Fearless. This entry refers to the montage of the same name created by player Grape Applesauce. While not the first MCSG montage, I would argue that it is the first good one, with clips not collected from just a single game, cinematic shots, and having the music sync up with the gameplay. It's a fun watch even today, at least to someone like me. It became very famous to players within the community and brought new players into the community due in part to Grape Applesauce's larger audience. 1.8 update controversy. When Minecraft version 1.8 released in late 2014, MCSG responded by doing what most servers did during a version update: go crossplay and allow both players on 1.7 and 1.8 to play at the same time. Eventually, MCSG axed 1.7 support and went to 1.8 exclusivity. While normally not a big deal to most servers, MCSG players had grown very accustomed to the quirks that 1.8 either changed or removed. On top of small things such as the fishing rod size being increased while holding it or just breaking many texture packs in general, 1.8 also changed hit detection in a way that was hard to describe, but frequent players were able to feel. It also broke the ability to consistently block hit, which we will talk about in a later entry. The players of MCSG eventually complained hard enough for the server to revert back to include 1.7 support. It's Austin. It's Austin was another famous player and content creator on MCSG. He was friends with many other content creators such as Solrflare and KvnPlays. Unfortunately, not much footage is available of his videos, as most of his recorded on MCSG have either been privated or deleted. Intros and graphics. This entry refers to the strange culture surrounding MCSG-themed channel intros, banners, etc. present on YouTube. While many of these were fairly harmless, with a 3D render of the channel owner's Minecraft skin accompanied with text of their name and a few too many filters, some of them with special emphasis on intros were strangely violent, especially considering the age demographic present on MCSG at the time. Clans. The closest MCSG ever came to becoming an esport was in its community's various clans. Typically consisting of 8 to 12 people, 2 clans would join the same survival games lobby and play and fight until only members of one clan remained. Plenty of video recordings of these so-called clan battles are still up on YouTube. Clans were a topic rarely discussed by players who weren't actively in them, and as such, I can only name a few that popular content creators or friends were in. Examples include Trivium and Click. Rockspot. Rockspot was, to my memory, the first of what were referred to as practice or warm-up servers that were frequented by the MCSG community. Rockspot is basically just a large battleground in which players are given iron armor, a sword, and the rest of the stuff that you would normally have on MCSG. The server is actually still up and running today. BiboyQG. Another famous player, BiboyQG's claim to fame aside from his obvious skill at the game was his voice's similarity to Huahwi's. He also had some pretty killer montages. C-Scoop. If you're familiar with C-Scoop in the modern times, you might be a little surprised to see his name here, but as it turns out, yes, C-Scoop got his start in content creation on MCSG. Most of these videos are gone now, whether they have been privated or deleted, which is a shame. Badlion.net. Badlion was a Minecraft server that was the closest you could come to competitive Minecraft. Opening in late 2014, it became the premier practice server for MCSG players. Instead of a free-for-all battleground, Badlion focused more on 1v1s with a variety of different kits. Stuff like bow only, ultra hardcore with blocks, water, and lava, and survival games with equipment you'd find on MCSG. Badlion was also popular due to it being one of, if not the first PvP server that had an actual ranking system, with its ranked ladder awarding elo to players who won their matches. Badlion also hosted regular matches of 100-man ultra hardcore or UHC events, a game mode that many MCSG players enjoyed as a different change of pace from their main game mode. A little later on, Badlion began hosting its own version of the survival games game mode, which was probably the closest you could come to MCSG's version, including a similar map pool and item variety. Ping. Ping was a very common talking point on MCSG. I probably don't need to explain what ping is, but it's a term used to measure how good your connection to an external server is. The discussion around ping involved its effect on Minecraft PvP specifically. The way it worked is, if you had a lower ping than your opponent, you would be able to land a hit on them from a further distance away. This is at least how it worked in theory. It was never that consistent if memory serves. The only way that ping was going to play a big role in a fight is if you and your opponent had a ping difference of over 60 or so. This didn't stop salty players from blaming their deaths on so-called ping abusers, a term coined, I think, by a player that we will be talking about shortly. Maps. MCSG, like many PvP-focused games, had a large variety of mostly user-created maps to play on. Maps were decided in each match's pre-game lobby, where they were voted on by the incoming players. I don't know what the exact number of individual maps on MCSG was, but I think it was anywhere from 55 to 60. How many of these were regularly played and voted for probably cut this number in half. Popular maps included Survival Games 4, Turbulence, Alaskan Village, and Valleyside University, just to name a few. Keep the name of Valleyside University in mind because it's going to be mentioned 2 more times in this video. Chest Routes and JustAHotDog. These two are being lumped together because it's sort of hard to talk about one without the other. JustAHotDog was a famous player, but not in the same way that someone like Solrflare or Huahwi was famous. While most people were making videos of them playing on MCSG, JustAHotDog was one of the few who actually made videos about MCSG. He was a very innovative content creator for the community, with such series as Why Other SG Servers Suck, in which he cynically criticized other servers hosting survival games for not being exactly like MCSG. His largest claim to fame was his chest route videos. Chest routes are pretty self-explanatory. It's wherever a player would plan to go to collect a loot in any given map. For the large majority of the community, JustAHotDog was where they got their routes. The longest running series on this channel, that isn't his regular MCSG recordings, we're not counting that because everybody did that, he showed players solid routes to take on all of the most popular maps that the server had to offer. He also did some other stuff that will be mentioned further down on the iceberg. KvnPlays. Another famous player, KvnPlays was known for 2 things if memory serves. First of all, his accent, or lisp. I'm honest to God not really sure which one. He had a unique voice and a very meme-worthy way of introducing his videos, which the community often made light of. In addition to being well known for doing editing for a lot of his friends' montages, including his own, he was one of the first players to fully adopt the technique of jitter clicking, which we will be talking about shortly. iBeaturscore. iBeaturscore, another famous player, had more of a cult following, I would say. Me and my friends on the server were fans, but I know not everybody enjoyed his content as much as us. iBeat's biggest claim to fame was his use of a female-coded Minecraft skin. I'm serious, when you're 13, that kind of thing matters a lot. Block hitting. Block hitting was a technique in which a player could press both of the mouse buttons at the same time in order to block and swing with the sword at the same time, which, in theory, have the damage that you could take in an encounter while still dealing full damage. The issue was that blocking with the sword severely nerfed your movement speed, so it was really only useful in very close quarters fights. Block hitting, as previously mentioned, was largely broken by the 1.8 update. Lobbies. This entry refers to the various waiting lobbies that players would be placed into before a match of survival games actually started. MCSG had a variety of lobbies during its lifespan, but finding footage of these specifically is difficult, so I'm not sure what the exact count was, but I can say with confidence that there were at least 3 that were used at different points in time. One of these is worth mentioning. Lobby Games was a map that served both as an elaborate pre-game lobby as well as being a playable survival games map, which was pretty tight. Refill. In an MCSG match, if half of the dedicated time for a match passes without triggering deathmatch, the chests in the middle of the map, otherwise known as spawn or cornucopia, would refill themselves. Most matches did not last long enough for this event to trigger, however. NoHacksJustPing. This entry technically refers to the player known as NoHacksJustPing, but the main thing to talk about here is the phenomenon surrounding his username. It was a creative username that, soon after people caught wind of it, many more uncreative players used as a template for their own, with stuff like no ping just hacks, no hacks just skill, no hacks only skill, you get the picture. MCSG's other game modes. In the very beginning of its existence, survival games was the only game mode you could play on MCSG, but soon after, different iterations of the game modes were added. Such game modes including Survival Games Classic, which limited the game mode's map pool down to a few of the first original Vareide maps, and Quarter Quell, which I don't think had any differences to regular MCSG other than the fact that it was one huge map. Also at some point prior to the MCGamer rebrand, Factions was added as a game mode. After the MCGamer rebrand, more game modes were added, including the likes of MCTF2, a kit PvP game mode based around Team Fortress 2, and Survival Bingo, in which you were given a bingo card filled in with various in-game tasks to complete, with the first to complete 5 tasks in a row becoming the winner. I never played this one, but that's a pretty creative concept for a game mode. Why it was on MCSG is anybody's guess though. The last one worth noting is Battlegrounds, which was essentially Rockspot, but accessible through the MCSG hub. Nightcore. While most players' musical interest lied with EDM, a certain subset of players, mostly consisting of future weeboos, took an interest in the quote-unquote genre of Nightcore. If you don't know what Nightcore is, it's where you take an already existing song, speed it up and up the overall pitch, put a picture of an anime girl on top of it, and upload it to YouTube. Very bizarre to me that this is still as popular as it is, by the way. Anyway, Nightcore made its way into a lot of montages, even some from the likes of It's Austin and KvnPlays. ChadtheDJ. Mentioned previously, Chad Dunbar, aka ChadtheDJ, is the founder of MCSG in addition to being the creator of the original Survival Games plugin. Despite this position, I don't think many players on the server really knew who he was. He was not extremely active on any social media platforms, and on the off chance that he did pull the attention of the community, he was often ridiculed by players who demanded that he do something about unsolvable issues such as ping or teams in survival games. Master Sword. This entry refers to the Easter egg found on the MCSG map Demon's Breeze. To the north of the map, a temple built out of quartz could be found. The inside of the temple was built to resemble the interior of the Temple of Time from The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. By throwing items into these slots in the altar thing, a redstone door would open, revealing a dropper that held an enchanted iron sword named the Master Sword, a clear reference to Zelda's own Master Sword. Scant. Scant was a survival games player who created a short YouTube series titled MCSG with Scant, in which he would dub over his gameplay with an old TTS voice. Not much else to say here. Q names. In the same realm as the No X Just Y naming convention was the Q name craze. This was done to get around Minecraft's use of the UUID username system, which does not allow users to have the exact same username. So the odds are names like, just thinking off the top of my head here, Assassin or Octopus are almost certainly not available. To get around this, players would replace one of the vowels with a Q, i.e. Ascusin or Cuctopus. Okay, probably not either of those, but you get what I mean. Graveyard. Graveyard was famous for occupying the #1 spot on MCSG's leaderboards for the large majority of its life. A solid and consistent player, Graveyard had a pretty successful YouTube channel which players would flock to see the #1 player on the server in action. Graveyard's plight with regards to the community was his constant comparison to Huahwi. Huahwi, generally agreed to be the best player on the server, if not the world, remember, caused many to put down Graveyard's talent as a player. This didn't affect him too much, however, and him and Huahwi had a pretty amiable relationship. As for which player was actually better, I couldn't tell you. Jitter clicking. About halfway through the server's lifespan, the topic of the technique known as jitter clicking was being brought up. I'm not sure who brought it to the server originally, but I do know that KvnPlays was one of the major adopters of the technique. Jitter clicking is done by tensing up the muscles in your wrist or arm in order to click your mouse one button as fast as possible. This, in theory, gives you some sort of an advantage in PvP. It was never fully clear to me what that actual advantage was, even as somebody who adopted the technique myself. There are problems with playing the game this way, the first and most prominent being that this is almost certainly awful for your hand in the long term. However, as the vast majority of MCSG's community was under 20, this didn't matter that much to them. The second problem is that aiming your mouse while also jackhammering M1 isn't super easy, especially if you can only reliably jitter your muscles in one specific grip method. This leads to some jitter clickers' gameplay looking like a drug-induced bout of rage. Jitter clicking is not exclusive to MCSG, in fact it is still the norm in PvP styles such as Kohi. MCSG 2.0. This entry refers to MCSG's 2.0 update. Unfortunately, I have not been able to locate any information regarding the contents and purpose of this update beyond remembering that it happened. Chestfire bug. MCSG had its fair share of bugs throughout its life, and the chestfire bug was probably the most well known. If a player with a flint and steel in hand held shift and right-clicked on a chest, the chest would be set on fire. However, the fire would not be visible. Players that stepped close enough to or jumped onto a chest would still be set on fire. As far as I know, this bug was never fixed due to its incredibly situational applications. YouTube bloat. This entry simply refers to the fact that there were so many people making videos on MCSG all doing the exact same thing. That thing being recording a round of themselves winning a match set behind mind-numbing live commentary and ending with a reminder to see you in the next one. The biggest expression of personality came in whether or not the person decided to put background music into the video. This is a hard thing to quantify, but just take my word for it, there were too many of these people. Sponsors. This entry refers to the sponsor system that could be utilized by players who had died in a match. After you had died, you could use the /sponsor command to gift a few set items to a player of your choice. Items that could be sponsored included the following: raw pork chop, ender pearl, cake, bow, 5 arrows, bowl of soup, flint and steel, or 2 experience bottles. It's also possible that there were more. Finding footage of somebody actually doing this is very hard. Challenges. A popular trend in the MCSG YouTube community was that of challenges, in which players would attempt to win a game while abiding by a set of self-imposed rules. Such challenges included stuff like bow only, allowing only the looting of a single chest, fist only, and there were many, many more. Fence eating bug. This entry refers to another commonly used bug on MCSG in which, when holding an item of food in your hand and right-clicking on a fence, the food would get eaten without the eating animation playing and subsequent speed drop occurring. This bug was particularly useful if you were running from somebody and didn't have time to replenish your hunger. Unfortunately, I cannot find any footage of a player utilizing this bug and have only found one very heated post on the MCSG forums discussing it. The Sun. This entry refers to the community's joke theory behind Huahwi's several YouTube hiatuses. The origin of this theory goes something like this. On the day before Huahwi posted his last video before his first hiatus, he posted a tweet saying, "The sun is rising." The simple explanation of the theory is that, based off of Huahwi's mention of his cold hands, he travels to the sun once every year in order to warm them up, I guess. Go watch JustAHotDog's video about it if you're that curious, but fair warning that it has not aged that well. Ranks. Like many Minecraft servers, MCSG had different ranks that were awarded to people who donated to the server. I never felt the need to purchase one, but I am told that the available ranks were silver, gold, platinum, and diamond. I don't know what exactly these gave you other than a fancy colored name in text chat. Other than that, I got nothing. Bounties. The opposite of sponsoring someone was sending a bounty on them. By using the command /bounty, player name, and amount, I think, you could set a point bounty on a player after you were dead. This would award the player who killed the bountied player the points that you spent to bounty them. This was rarely used and oft forgotten. Lovelights/Kosmish. Lovelights, formerly and currently known as Kosmish, real name Eric, was a fairly well-known and well-respected player on MCSG. He was known as the creative lead of the team that made Valleyside University, one of the popular maps we talked about earlier. On top of just being a cool dude in general, Lovelights put out what I would call sleeper hit texture packs. We're going to be mentioning Lovelights one more time before this video ends, so keep him in mind. 1.7 item animations. Prior to the 1.8 update, it was known by some that the animation of certain items could be broken slightly. These animation bugs were purely cosmetic, with the only reward you get from doing them being the satisfaction that you got when doing a thing that looked sorta cool. On top of block hitting, an animation bug that also had a gameplay benefit attached to it, a similar thing could be done with the bow, pressing M1 to attack with it before using M2 to draw back the string. Achievements. In the very early days of MCSG, you could get achievements. I was not around during the time when this was a thing, and the only reason I know about this is that there is an old clip of Huahwi killing a 3-team in which he gets one. Boat kills. This was a trend in which players would attempt to get kills by getting a player to drop from a high place into water and placing a boat where they land, thus killing them from fall damage. It was a fun thing to pull off, but pretty soon people stopped chasing people into bodies of water at the bottom of large drops. Zephhyre. Zephhyre was considered by the people that knew of him to be the guy to ever edit an MCSG montage. His portfolio of work was small but of extremely high quality, at least in the realm of PvP montages. Basically, if you wanted to make a montage, Zephhyre was the guy you wanted to edit it, and as such, he was extremely selective about who he would edit for. Examples of his work include Grape Applesauce's second montage, Frame of Mind, and Huahwi's Fortitude, the latter of which I would consider to be one of the best montages ever put together. Hi, it's me from the future. I listened to this take while I was editing, while I was talking about the ProMC thing, and it was just terrible, so I'm redoing it here without a script, so here we go. Okay, so the ProMC thing was basically, JustAHotDog was making the Why Other SG Servers Suck series, and he came to ProMC, which is just like another one of these servers that was like hosting mini games and stuff, and they had survival games. He mentions right at the beginning of this video that he's going to be a little bit harsher than normal because he has like personal venom with this server. This was due to him, he knew Lovelights, right? The guy that we just talked about. And Lovelights made Valleyside University, a map that was supposed to have been made for exclusive use on MCSG. But ProMC had it somehow, even though there's no download link for it anywhere at this point. So he makes the video, and then eventually this comes to Twitter, where Lovelights and like the owner of ProMC are arguing about this, and the owner of the server of ProMC, I mean, digs through like the Mojang terms of service, like the EULA, and he concludes that you can't like make a map private or exclusive or whatever. So yeah, it technically, the rules say that you can't do this, but it doesn't stop it from being a shitty thing to do, you know? Anyway, JustAHotDog points out that like this is not the only case of this. There are like a bunch of other MCSG maps that are on ProMC that, you know, they don't have permission to use. I think it was like Turbulence, Par 72, Zone 85, a lot of the popular maps, right? This was giving them a lot of bad press. And ProMC was like already kind of struggling to keep the lights on, you know? They didn't have very many players even at like peak times and whatnot. So, they'd had to shut down. And this was like right next to the time where all of this map stuff was happening. So, people came to the conclusion that JustAHotDog did it, and fucking yay, they rejoiced. And that's basically what happened. Back to a very tired me from 2 weeks ago. Flint and Steel durability bug. Late into MCSG's lifespan, a bug emerged in which the last charge of a Flint and Steel would be consumed without actually setting a fire. This was the first sign of neglect from the administrators I remember feeling. iBeaturscore's ban. Early in 2015, iBeaturscore, while playing a match on the server, went up against a team of 9 players. He said, and I'm going to put this as politely as possible, that he wished for them to pass away. He was banned for this. I remember being confused as to why they banned him. Yeah, telling someone to X themselves isn't cool, but I heard worse shit from players on a regular basis and they weren't banned. Most likely, administrators felt that as a content creator on the server, they didn't want him to incite other players to do the same thing. Now, he did make a rebuttal video, a song in which he called ChadtheDJ fat, claimed that the server staff hated their players, and told them to suck his balls. Real classy. I don't know if he ever got unbanned, but it was known that he had alt accounts, so maybe he just used one of those. Disguising. Disguising was a feature mostly used by popular YouTubers to conceal their usernames in-game and prevent people from killing them as soon as possible in matches. If memory serves, this feature was given to players who purchased the highest rank Platinum. Message radius. Possibly the most forgotten feature of the game mode if people even knew it was a thing to begin with. When typing in chat in a survival games match, your message was only able to be seen if the outside player was within a certain radius of the sender. What the specific radius was, I'm not sure anybody knows. I'm gonna put a trigger warning here for the mentioning of a hate symbol. If you don't want to see it, you can skip to the time on screen. Par72 Swastika. There isn't a lot to say about this one. It just so happens that the creator of the map Par72, a lady named Lemons87, accidentally put a pattern of blocks resembling a swastika in her map. I'm sure there was underground discussion on whether or not this was really intentional or whatever. It definitely wasn't. Although I will say that it's weird that a revision was never made. This seems like a really easy thing to just patch out, you know, but I'm not sure. Maybe this wasn't discovered until MCSG had already shut down. I have a hard time believing that, but I don't know. ChadtheDJ stole his account rumor. Gonna preface this one by saying this was a piece of information passed on to me by my friend Chris, who claims to have heard this story from multiple people during his time spent on the server. Apparently, Chad Dunbar, the creator of MCSG, never actually purchased a legitimate copy of Minecraft. Allegedly, what he did instead was find the login information on a YouTube video giving away stolen accounts. On top of just being absurd, there's a pretty big gap in this story. The ability to change the username of a Minecraft account was not implemented until 2015. So what must be true in order for this theory to be true is that a man named Chad Dunbar, who wanted a free Minecraft account, just so happened to find a video giving away a free Minecraft account that had the name Chad the DJ. The only other possible explanation is that Chad the DJ's real name isn't Chad, which I guess is a little more plausible, but you don't have to put your real name on your Instagram account, do you? I don't know why I'm getting mad at this obvious bullshit. Regardless, it's pretty funny. Reopening and re-shut down. You may be surprised to hear that MCSG has reopened multiple times since 2016, in which seemingly some old players play a few matches for nostalgia's sake and then dip out. The server then shuts down again and the cycle continues a few months or years later. This practice honestly makes me a little bit sad. It's a hard thing to explain, but I think that it's hard to see someone, or in this instance something, return, but as a shell of its former self. I get that it's hard to say goodbye to a thing that gave you as many memories as MCSG did for the lot of us in the community, but this sort of thing that costs money to maintain and operate and isn't as appealing to so many people anymore, it's gonna be hard, you know? If you really just have to play survival games like back in the day, Badline's still up? Never mind, no it's not. Listen, my point is, do you really need survival games that badly? What's up gamers, it's me, TheGray. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much, I really appreciate you watching. I should probably state right off the bat that if you came here from the Axel video and you like subscribed for like more content like that, it's not gonna be a lot of that. I would still love to do more character analysis, but it's not every video is gonna be about Guilty Gear or fighting games or even video games all the time, right? My channel doesn't really have a theme. It's just whatever I find interesting at the time of like a video's release. And if you want to jump ship, I knocked my microphone, I'm sorry. If you want to jump ship, that's totally fine, like I get it. That was kind of a one-off that I'm surprised did as well as it did. Thank you guys so much for that, by the way. That was a fucking dream come true. But yeah, no, if my channel doesn't turn out to be the thing that you want it to be, that's totally fine, I get it, you can leave, I won't be offended. I'm gonna mention again the playlist that my friend Chris made of a bunch of nostalgia-inducing songs from the MCSG days. If you'd like to listen to that, it should be near the top of the description. The Axel video has me really motivated, so I churned this out pretty quick, although I was working on it like pretty much while I was working on the Axel video. But yeah, no, it has me really motivated, and I think I'd like to do this maybe get an upload out once a month. I think I can do that. Another video is currently on track. I'm script writing and I'm getting footage for it, so that should be coming out. I'd love to get it out on the fucking first of the month, but I mean, it's the 17th when I'm recording this, and this video is pretty much done at this point, so it's probably not going to happen, but like maybe it can happen. I don't know. Anyway, that's pretty much all I got. Again, shout out to the MCSG community, the MCSG itself, and I guess like Chad for making it, because I know that guy's still around. Thank you for all the memories that I made on MCSG and all the friends that I made on MCSG. It really was, I was really in the right place at the right time with that. And, you know, I had a lot of fun playing on it, made a lot of memories. It was really cool. So, yeah, thank you. To all the people that were MCSG veterans that watched this video, what's up? And also, bye.